Such a terrific crowd. Thank you all for coming out this evening. My name is Peter Robertson. I'm one of the two co-chairs of the Hotel Pentagon SPRC. Leo Sarley is the other, and we both hope and expect he'll be here. Start without him. Welcome to the November 14th, 2024 Site Plan Review Committee Subgroup Meeting for the Hotel Pentagon project. We will be holding a hybrid public meeting, which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia per the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7th, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for the Hotel Pentagon project are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting will run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the SPRC webpage, the project webpage, the county's events calendar, and the email notifications sent to the SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For our subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you're called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address when it's appropriate to turn it on in a moment. The Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes: for SPRC subgroup members who need technical assistance, and for members of the public to add their names to the list for public comment, which will be taken at the end of the meeting. The Teams chat should not be used for discussion. Those who are planning to provide public comment will still need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public comment period. If subgroup members participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn on your video feed and raise the virtual hand in Teams. I will monitor the video feeds that are on as an indicator of who would like to speak. If subgroup members are participating via phone today without the video option, please announce your name and group and the group that you're representing now, and I will virtually check in to see if you wish to be recognized, as you do not have the video feed option. All right, hearing none. For our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, you will be called on to speak at the end of the meeting and will be allotted 2 to 3 minutes to speak on tonight's agenda item. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have this evening. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat for virtual attendees, or provide staff with your name if you're here in person, and you will be added to the speakers list. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. We're going to move to introductions. Again, I'm Peter Robertson, member of the Planning Commission and chair of the Hotel Pentagon SPRC.
I'm Leo Sarley, also with the Planning Commission and co-chairing with the Commissioner.
My name is Tony Striner.
Jim Montelme, Planning Commission.
Mike Flores, representative from the Transportation.
Helen Macbeth, representative from the Housing Commission.
Jill Barker from the Park and Recreation Commission.
Andrea Walker, Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Matt Bedford, Secretary Valley.
Bob Benson, Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
Matt Bailey with Crescent Communities, one half of the ownership team. Kendrick Whitmore, I'm the land use and zoning attorney with Vanderbilt representing.
Frederick T. Craddock, resident, 24th Road, South.
Brett Johnson with Department of Environmental Services. Kevin Lamb with the Planning Division.
Gabriella Green with the Planning Division.
Curtis Rolla with the Planning Division.
Adrian Nelson, pastor of Lomax in Zion Church.
John Capitan, Brooklyn Mock, the architect.
Alice Mendea, Fuller, DC, civil engineer.
Katie Lenz, Rockefeller Group, the other half of the ownership.
Devin Perry, Rockefeller Group as well. And then behind Treasury Advisory Committee backup.
Coach Yvette, Representative Clement, members of the Utility and Environment Commission. Should you be at the table? You be at the table? Probably.
You mind? Let's make some room. Come up here.
Yeah, pull up your chair.
Back together.
I think it's going this way.
Everybody takes one half wheel.
Oh, sorry.
And then we got some.
Can the online, excuse me, online SPRC members please introduce themselves?
I'm Portia Clark with the Green Valley Civic Association president.
You're muted, Daniel.
Daniel Weir, Planning Commission.
Aaron? Aaron, consider yourself introduced. Oh, yeah, sorry. Somebody just came in.
You mind introducing yourself?
Oh, yes, I'm Gloria Rowe Little, with Lomax Church.
And is it possible to make some space for Gloria?
Pardon me?
Is it possible to make some space for you at the table?
Pick on that side.
I think, yeah.
We've done our part.
Yep. Where? Thank you.
Yeah, right. Literally.
All right, so we'll start off with staff's presentation and then hand it off to the applicant before launching into SPRC discussion. All right, so again, I'm Kevin Lamb with the Planning Division, and I'll be providing a presentation on behalf of staff for the Hotel Pentagon major site plan amendment. So tonight I'll be providing a brief project overview before launching into the SPRC discussion topics for tonight, which are listed on the screen. I'll then close with talking about kind of the next steps in the process. So the site itself is located in Green Valley at 2480 South Glebe Road. It is bordered by some warehouses to the south and the southwest. We have some apartment buildings to the east and to the north. And then to the west, we have the Lomax AME Zion Church and Cemetery, which is designated a local historic district and is also listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The site is also located in the special planning area and therefore subject to the 4 Mile Run Valley area plan. The existing zoning of RAH Hotel District is proposed to be retained. And this zoning district is consistent with the medium residential general land use plan designation. So the medium residential GLUP designation is shown here in light brown. Part of the site is also designated service industry. But concurrent with this major site plan amendment, there are plans to clean up the split GLUP designation by changing the service industry to medium residential. Just some context, the site has been occupied by a hotel since at least the 50s. The portion still designated service industry was rezoned in 1985 from M1 to RAH in order to bring the entire property under the same site plan and to also construct the 7-story hotel that is there today. However, the GLUP designation was never changed during that rezoning, and is currently inconsistent with the RAH zoning district, which typically corresponds with the medium residential GLUP designation. So in terms of kind of the policy guidance, the site is subject to the 4 Mile Run Valley area plan, which outlines a future vision for the 4 Mile Run Valley, especially as it relates to environmental sustainability and stormwater, transportation and streetscapes, open space, public art, and land use mix. In addition, the plan includes design guidelines for future redevelopment, including maintaining the community's industrial character, incorporating materials such as brick, stone, and metal and glass windows and entrances. And then lastly, contributing to safe and inviting streets. The subject site is located in sub-area D of the concept plan. The site is depicted as preserve existing uses, which recommends preserving existing uses at heights already prevalent in the area. So as a result, the plan recommends future land uses of hotel/multifamily residential, which is shown here in yellow, and then open space shown in green, along with a potential street connection that connects 24th Road with Shirlington Road, which is shown in white. An important note is that this cluster of parcels outlined in black is under common ownership, and such a street connection in this particular area would require coordination with that owner if redevelopment were to ever occur. Meanwhile, the recommended building height is primarily 75 feet. And as you can see here, there is a transitional height zone of 45 feet adjacent to the Lomax Church property. So diving into the proposal, it includes 531 total units at a density of 96 dwelling units per acre. This includes around 24 dwelling acres per unit of additional density, which is permitted through the provision of features and amenities that benefit the community. The majority of the units will be located in the main multifamily building. There's also 4 townhouse-style buildings consisting of 37 3-bedroom units. In terms of site design and layout, the main multifamily building shown here is 9 stories and wraps around an 8-story above-grade parking garage that is topped with a 9th floor amenity space. So we have a pool, the amenity space, and some terraces. Meanwhile, in the southern portion of the site, it consists of the 4 townhouse-style buildings, which share this driveway, which is located off of a private access drive. As recommended in the 4 Mile Run Valley plan, the site also includes a new street connection and open space area, which is located along the western property line. Sorry, the laser pointer is a bit slow, just FYI. In order to accommodate a future potential connection through the property to Shirlington Road, Falcon is also reserving some space just south of the roundabout over here. So for purposes of tonight's discussion, we can talk about the street connection and the open space kind of at a conceptual level in terms of placement and general layout. However, as the applicant progresses through their designs, we can talk about specific details of the street and the open space at SPRC meeting number 2, which does cover those topics. Overall, the building height does exceed the recommended maximum building height of 75 feet in the area plan. Although the zoning ordinance does allow for building heights up to 125 feet or 12 stories in this particular zoning district. So the main multifamily building, again, is 9 stories at a height of around 98.5 feet. Like I mentioned, the 9th story consists solely of a 12,000 square foot space that sits atop the parking garage, providing access to a pool and the terraces. Meanwhile, the residential units are located on the first 8 stories of the building, and these 8 stories rise up to 84.5 feet. So staff are continuing to review this height deviation from the area plan guidance, and we'll be looking at its potential impacts. Architecturally, the multifamily building draws on the area plan design guidelines by using a gray stone and brick base. On the facade, it consists of masonry and fiber cement. And then there's also some balconies with metal railings throughout the building. And then with respect to the historic church and the cemetery, the building itself is clear of the transitional height zone and is set back around 82 feet from the western property line. Additionally, on this side of the building steps back 8.5 feet on the 7th floor, and then another 35 feet on the 9th floor. In terms of the townhouse style buildings, each of them are 4 stories with a main roof height of around 40 feet. Again, the buildings consist of gray, black, and brown masonry and fiber cement facades. And then each unit also features a front stoop and a rear single car garage that is private to each unit. So staff did host an online engagement opportunity, which garnered 70 participants and 385 comments. So both staff and the applicant have reviewed the responses, in which many feel the residential use and building types are an improvement over existing conditions. Although several also expressed strong concerns about the proposed number of units and feel it will negatively impact local traffic and on-street parking, particularly on 24th Road. Although some suggest additional height would be appropriate if it increases housing capacity, others believe the 9-story building overshadows the church and surrounding homes. A summary of the responses has been posted to the project webpage, which goes further into detail under each of the topic areas. We also conducted our typical community outreach to relevant groups and promotion methods through the county channels listed here. So tonight's SPRC meeting will be followed by a second SPRC meeting in the coming months, which will cover the following topics listed on the screen. The public review process will then move towards the commission and county board meetings, which are anticipated this spring. That concludes staff's presentation. I can pass it off to the applicant now.
Great, thanks, Mr. Lamb. Well, Sean, there we go. Bringing up our presentation again. My name is Kendrick Whitmore with Venable, and we'll give a brief presentation here. Thank you. So you can see here on this slide, this is our timeline. Back. There we go. This is our timeline where we've been and kind of where we're going. And we filed this initially, a concept submission with staff back in early 2023. And we've had a number of meetings and discussions with staff going forward, leading up to tonight, and then we'll continue those conversations as we go toward approval. What is not shown here, but also very important to point out, is that we've had a number of conversations also with our neighbors, with the Green Valley Civic Association and with the Lomax Church to solicit their feedback and get their thoughts, and we're going to continue to do that as well throughout the process. So a brief overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. I'll first jump into the existing conditions at the site with the existing hotel use. You can see here the property is bounded on the north by 24th Road South, on the west by the Lomax Church, and on the east by Glebe Road. Zooming in a little bit here, you can see that the kind of unusual configuration of the site, I call it a pork chop, as it gets thinner as we go south here. That has in many ways driven our site design as we respond to these conditions. of the unusual shape of the site and, of course, the historic church adjacent to the property. A few views of what exists at the site today. As mentioned, there are several hotel buildings here currently. I'll point out a couple of important elements. You can see on the top right here, this is facing west on 24th Road South. That is the church building there, just past this retaining wall. And you can see there's a really massive vertical drop off between the church property and then the drive aisle that exists here today. Another view, this one looking north from the southern portion, from the handle of that pork chop here, you can see the buffer area, not in the best shape between the church and the existing site, and we're going to improve that dramatically with our proposal. A couple of shots of just surrounding properties, and you can see here the context of some of the other multifamily buildings are similar in height to what we're proposing here today. So another constraint that we've dealt with here is the grade change. There is a pretty significant grade change. Those of y'all who've been down there, it is rather hilly. There's about a 22-foot change within the site. So that is another significant site factor that we've dealt with in kind of driving our design. So the proposal itself, as Mr. Lamb referenced, is this is a 5.5-acre site. We've proposed 531 multifamily units and 550 parking spaces. You can see the layout here. Mr. Kefferson will speak in greater detail to this, but the bulk of these units are located in what we've called Building E, the large multifamily building, and there are 4 groups of townhome style units that make up the remainder, again, in that kind of pork chop handle there. A couple other elements I'll point out is this access road coming off of 24th Road South. We've got multiple garage entrances fed from that access point. And we've also got what we think is a really nice green buffer here along the Lomax Church frontage. As Mr. Lamb noted, there are additional discussions going on with Arlington County DES with respect to this drive aisle. So there will likely be some changes as we finalize that, but we're very excited about the opportunity to improve the border between this property and the church property. As Mr. Lamb mentioned, this is in the 4 Mile Run Valley area planning area. That is another place where we've started here. We've taken those kind of physical constraints of the site, who our neighbors are, how the property is shaped, and we've tried to apply them to the plan that's in place here. We've taken great care to review the plan and to look at the history of this area and incorporate those elements into the design of the proposal. And most importantly in our design has been the relationship with our neighbors to the west, to the Lomax AME Church. Mr. Lamb talked through some of the history of this location, but obviously a very important site, both locally and nationally, and one that we've sought to respect greatly in our design. So this is a view of the existing condition today in the bottom left. And I alluded to that earlier. There's a retaining wall, a very large drop off, and then a significant driveway and the existing hotel buildings. You'll see in the main image here, we've kind of dimensioned these setbacks to try to understand what that looks like today. So I'll walk through those briefly. The current distance between the Lomax Church building and the closest hotel building is 110 feet. That is made up of the setback on the church side, which is 86 foot 4 inches, and a relatively small setback on the hotel side, 23 feet 8 inches, adding up to that 110. So we've sought to increase that setback dramatically. We have now changed that from the 23 foot 8 inch setback to an 81 foot 9 inch setback to the closest portion where our building begins. And we've essentially proposed to replace, sorry to switch back and forth, to replace this entire buffer here, or this entire drive aisle that you can see here, with the green buffer that we propose along the border there. So that increases the setbacks. Obviously, the church remains where it is, but it increases the building-to-building setback from the proposed apartment to the church to 168, just over 168 feet, which we're very happy with, both in terms of quality and quantity of that setback. Here's a section view just to give you some more idea of what these buildings will look like in the context of one another. We mentioned the height. We've attempted to push all of that height as far as we can east toward Glebe Road, where it will have less impact. And we've also stepped the building back here It's a little more difficult to see in the context here, but it's an 8-foot step back, providing further relief and distance from the church building. Shadow studies wanted to ensure that our proposal did not have negative impacts in terms of shadows on the church. You can see here we've modeled it in a number of different instances. And I believe the only time any shadow is cast is here on the winter solstice at 9:30. We do have some shadow on the graveyard, but not on the church building itself. But beyond that, there is no shadow impact. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean to talk about the site design. Seats here.
Edward? So when we were approaching the site design, we were really trying to figure out where we were going to come in to the site and have the least impact as possible. We originally were coming off of Lee Road, going through the process. We have completely reoriented that, so everything is off of 24th Road. We also no longer have a garage entrance access off of 24th Road as well, so it's one singular vehicular connection coming into the overall site. Working around the site, we are low here at the corner on Glebe. That's where story 1, we gain grade as we work our way up. Main entrance for building E, our main residential building, is here. That'll be at level 2. You'll enter into a leasing lobby, nice amenity space, and looking down into a on-grade courtyard there at the level 1 space coming through. We also then have the garage entrance here that is coming in at level 2. At that point, we potentially pulled that back off of 24th Road so that we have queuing distance coming in there. And then you've got the continuation of the private drive down, connecting to our townhouse style buildings. There is the secondary garage entrance on the south end, entering at that point, as well as our loading dock down at the lower level on level 1. We've highlighted the pedestrian circulation around the site here with the magenta color, and we'll be providing 10-foot clear sidewalks on 24th. Looking specifically here at the level 1 plan, you can see where we have the residential units. Where we provided step-out terraces, allowing a walkout unit, getting people on the street, getting eyes on the street, and activating those exposures coming through. The other thing we've done is added a secondary lobby here off of the turnaround space that's going to relate to the townhouses and 2 over 2s, which will have access to the amenity spaces of the building. Continuing to walkout residential units here, and then the garage entrance on the south side. There will be a small amenity space at level 1 that then relates to the on-grade courtyard that's wrapped by the residential building. As we step up to level 2, this is often where I think it's easiest to kind of understand the building. Coming in at the main lobby level, level 1, there you'll be looking over a mezzanine down to the level 1 courtyard. Residential units wrapping at that point. You can see our main vehicular entrance there coming off of the private drive going down, and then a unsecured area there from a parking gate control point. So we do have a turnaround and a drop-off space that can lead directly into the residential building. Going back over some of the renderings that Mr. Lamb went over earlier, here you are standing on Glebe Road looking to the south. We really kind of tried to make a main moment there on Glebe Road relating across to 395. The main move is from levels 4 through 7, kind of capturing the units there in a frame, and then having the balconies kind of protrude out of that frame coming through. We've intentionally set back the volume level 8 and level 3 to kind of break that down and give some relief coming through, creating unique units and step out terrace spaces coming through at that point, and then capturing level 1 and level 2 in a masonry volume, and then the walkout units at that point. As we walk our way up 24th Road, you can see the main entrance there. We've held that back, kind of allowing some space for gathering and a gracious kind of moment coming through at that point, and a simple grid moving up 24th Road. And then we have our proposed materials down at the bottom. We've grayed out the materials that aren't shown in the current render. Here we're just moving down Glebe Road, looking now to the north, similar move that I just spoke about, but then intentionally have broken the volume away at this point, gone darker, created a recess, but made sure we had balconies in that area, and then a simple grid to capture the residential units facing the cell phone tower lot. And we've got extruded balconies at that point, giving us shadow lines, giving us depth, and then giving outside space for those tenants. Here we're standing on the private drive. This is the setback area that Kedrick was talking about. So at the base, we really try to create a two-story masonry volume, breaking down that area, getting a strong datum at that point. Also then seeing the lobby space that will relate to the townhouses and 2/2s, 4 stories of masonry going up, and then our 2-story setback at the top. We've got that setback 8'9" there to really provide relief to the church. Here you're standing at the corner of the traffic circle. You can see those massing moves that I spoke about earlier and the masonry volume coming up and really the setback at that point at the top, pulling that away and creating. Just a zoom in of the secondary entrance coming through, really inviting the townhouse users into the building and marking that entrance off of the turnaround circle. Looking down the private drive here, this is going to be the new main vehicular entrance to the project, and then you're catching a view of the townhouse product down at the end. And then this is standing on 24th Road, looking down that private drive. I think this shows best that kind of setback we're trying to create, and then creating a break there and massing from the rhythm of the grid that we created to capture the units. And then looking at that main entrance, a large stair and gathering space kind of coming in at that point, setting it back, and you'd come into a 2-story space, then look down to the level 1 amenity space below. And then kind of jumping in and viewing that space closer in, how it is pulled back, again, kind of bringing that stone into that area to mark the entrance and an opportunity for signage for the project. Going to the townhouse buildings, we have 2 different product types, building A being one product type, and then building B, C, and D being a different product type. Here, we really try to keep it simple masonry frames, but to define them each a little bit differently, giving it that idea of kind of almost home ownership as part of a rental product, stoops coming off of each of these units, and then in building A, setting back the top floor, creating an outdoor rooftop space. Here you're standing at the edge of the traffic circle, looking to the south, so you're seeing the townhouse style product and then the 2/2 product to the south of that. And then on this, you're standing in the cell phone lot, you're seeing buildings C and D. Here we tried to create a masonry volume at the end and then a rhythm coming through, then added a dark element at the top to really kind of break down the massing so it doesn't read as 4 stories, but kind of reads as a 3/1 effect going through. And then here you're standing on the private drive looking to the west towards the Lomax Church. This is the end cap of the 2/2 product, getting a little bit of the fiber cement panel wood look coming through at that point, and then a balcony overlooking the green space. That concludes our presentation today.
Right. We're going to move to the discussion topics for the evening. Land use and density, site design and layout, and building height, form, and architecture. I think we should have plenty of time to cover all 3, but please try to remember to keep your questions and comments limited to those subjects. There'll be another opportunity to address other issues when we have the second SPRC meeting this winter. So land use and density first. Questions or comments related to that issue? Through this faster than all right. How about site design and layout? Please.
So I know it was mentioned that some of the materials used were meant to, I guess, evoke thoughts of the culture and history of the neighborhood. What exactly about it is supposed to do that. I guess when I look at that building, it looks like every other new building in Arlington. So, and that's not meant to, you know, like be offensive, because I get it, those get approved, so people keep doing the same thing. But what about this building in particular evokes the history of and the culture of this neighborhood of Green Valley, of
Oh, I'm.
yeah,
you.
I think I missed that in the drawings, but
It wasn't. That was just a mention of the historic church and style of architecture.
okay. Because I think I saw too, like Martin Luther King give a speech in the church. Like, it seems like some really cool things happen right near this property.
And
Yeah,
I'll let, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add to that, in addition to Lomax being historical, so is the cemetery. Our ancestors are there. I have a great-great-grandfather who's there, who was the first Black county supervisor. His portrait is in the library here, the main library. And I have another relative, I have several relatives in the cemetery. So we were quite concerned about the integrity of the cemetery. Another relative was just honored recently, within the last 5 years, and his name is etched in Clarendon Square on the World War Memorial. So one of the concerns is that some of the construction may hinder or impede upon the land in which the cemetery resides and those that are residing in it, especially when it comes to excuse me, the road that is going to be built in that area. We are worried about the concerns to the grading and elevation of that particular area. So I'd like to just make that comment at this time.
yeah.
And thank you for the.
Yeah, I guess my point in that was, and this is not unique to this project, because I feel like this is pretty much every project in Arlington. And one of the critiques of Arlington is you walk through and you can never tell that you're in Arlington because it looks like any other place in the US that's had recent development. Is there a way to make this more culturally resonant with the community and just not look quite so much? And again, there's nothing wrong with this building. I think it is a fine looking building. I'm sure people would be happy to live there. It just does not, to me, speak Green Valley or 4 Mile Run or anything about all the historic, you know, things that have happened near it.
So great question. So a couple of things, and I'll let Sean also speak to the architecture a little more. But I think in terms of design and how we relate to the historic church, it, as I mentioned, has been a driving factor in our design from day one. But it doesn't mean that we're trying to copy it or in some way recreate it. And I think that those attempts to recreate historic structures typically fall flat and end up cheapening both the new and the original. What we have tried to do is design this in a way that the site in a way that respects really the piece of the cemetery there by adding that green buffer, by adding some additional space, setback, and relief. Our hope is that it will be a kind of a calm space there adjacent to the cemetery. And in terms of the structural integrity of that space, you're absolutely right that that's something we're going to have to take great care with in terms of when, and I'm not a construction person, but in terms of when that retaining wall is removed, ensuring that it doesn't disturb the soil there. And I know there are people a lot smarter than me about those things, but we'll take painstaking care to do that. And I know that county review is very stringent on that. And of course, we'll continue to coordinate with the church as we go through that to ensure that what we're doing doesn't disturb anything, either physically or emotionally at the site.
Thank you.
So to follow up with Kellen's question, just to clarify, when y'all were doing your presentation, the slide showcasing the architectural design of the church, the way that you guys are embodying that is specifically the green buffer and the setback, those two items. And
that is, and I don't know, Sean, if you have anything to add to that.
Sure. So we did not want to honor the church. We were not trying to replicate it in any way. We did want to bring masonry to the building, seeing the neighborhood, seeing the other products that was there. And so, we have really focused the masonry part towards the church and then towards 24th Road as well. And then our stone base on glebe also is to be reminiscent of the retaining wall.
Okay.
That is there.
So the black, the white, and the gray stone embodies the
retaining.
Okay. Do you have an image of the retaining wall? Oh, you mean the existing?
The existing retaining wall.
But that's gonna be taken out.
Carlos, correct me, but our plan is to bring it up and get.
I'm sorry, it goes up. I misstated that. I'm sorry. I didn't know that wasn't coming out.
Yeah.
Wait, one person?
I'll jump in here. Our goal is to grade up to the existing retaining wall, keep that integrity of the retaining wall. So again, the concerns just mentioned, there is no excavation, there is no detriment to the cemetery.
Okay.
So we will be filling up against the retaining wall. What Sean's trying to convey is your view line here, right? It is of that.
Gotcha. So that stone right there is what the artistical elements of the choices in brick was garnered from. I appreciate that. My consideration as a non-resident of Green Valley, so just to get that out there, I don't live in that neighborhood. I live in Crystal City. However, I would encourage a balance between the utilization of the red could go cheaply, but utilization of the tans and the browns will often soften the presence that the church has. And I have an immediate concern about that.
Say that last part again.
When the colors that you've chosen, to me, would wipe out the red of the church.
Go ahead.
I think both. I mean, the fact that you have a building that is brown and black and white and gray next to a red one, the red tones that the church is. Do you have any drawings where you have the design next to the church so that we can get a visual?
Actually, yeah, and Sean, you can speak this a little bit more. And that was actually one of the pivots that we did make in this design here. We were picking up inspiration from the church, and that's why that brown and more reddish brick did get picked up alongside that church to be very respectful to the church and take some cues and inspiration from that.
Do you have any graphics that show the building like this with the church, or a view of the building with the church?
We don't.
Okay. I think
We can get that, yeah.
Yeah, will the retaining wall with the stone, will that be visible? What do you mean by filling up to it?
You can see it here, the road's gonna come down, but where essentially the wall disappears but remains in place.
So, okay, I have two questions about that.
Yes, please.
I mean, first of all, the cemetery is old and the retaining wall is presumably age. So I would ask that it be evaluated for its integrity and that it will maintain.
Yes, and we are working with the
Yeah.
contractor at the moment to understand all that, because again, our goal is not to increase the elevation on the retaining wall or decrease it at all. It's just that's our line. We don't want to disturb anything.
But I have one more point, which is that, but you're picking up the architectural element and visual cue of a retaining wall that you're going to cover up. So it seems like there's am I wrong about that? It seems like there's a disconnect there.
So that material, and Sean, correct me if you have a different opinion, but that material and stone does appear throughout the neighborhood, and that's what we're picking up. It's pretty prevalent, and that and that corner there is we're using it to frame in our main entry as well. So
Okay.
But yeah, it's not
it
just
don't
that.
really relate to the church architecture if
Specifically,
the retaining wall is covered up.
yeah, it's,
Something to add on or to pose here. Some of the church members are concerned about a couple of things. One is the noise element, and so we want you to consider a wall that would buffer some of the noise that would come from the dwellings, because we could conceivably have residents having parties on their balconies and what have you during our services, not just Sunday services, but we have funerals during the day, we have weddings, and we have the school of children. So we have a school operating there during the day. So also that brings in the factor of this road that you're bringing in, the proposed two-way entry from 24th Street and the possibility of it turning from a private to a public entrance, creating a huge traffic flow. Someone has even suggested that we need a traffic light there. But also the fact that the dropping off of children in the morning, I mean, there's a lot of considerations that need to be studied in terms of the flow of people now, currently, with the school, the church, and the access of others in Green Valley and others traveling through Green Valley, getting to, what is that? I'm just calling it Shirley Highway. I am a local. So 395. So those are some concerns, especially about having a light there at that junction. The noise, debris, the noise, I'll talk about the debris later. Some are of the opinion that the project is way too large in size and scope for the area and the location on a corner there, because we already have backups with, during rush hour, with those who are, entering and exiting 395. And the height of the apartment building is too high. Even given the shadow studies, we feel that the square footage on the corner is just too large. So I have some other things, other points that the congregation has pointed out, but I'll just hold off right now.
and Gloria, can I just ask one quick clarification? When you said the corner, is that the corner closest to the church, or corner along Glebe?
Yes, along Glebe.
Okay.
Yes. Even the traffic entering and exiting the traffic light there at Glebe at 24th Street. It could be horrendous.
I can attest to that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been there at 5 o'clock and I have walked
Yes.
there. And it's bad now. And if you're adding 500 units,
Yes.
it's going to be, woo. But I understand that there is some sort of VDOT is going to do something wonderful. Is this true? I mean, I don't know. It's a question. I saw in the notes, that there were plans afoot as far as what, VDOT was going to do as far as the 395 entrance. And if there was something that was coming up to kind of relieve the traffic that already exists.
Yeah, my understanding there is a study going on. I think it's still ongoing.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not much more of an update. Unfortunately, the county doesn't really have control over VDOT.
True.
We already know that.
But we do appreciate that.
And so
I want to turn to a couple of the folks online that have had their hands up for a while. Portia Clark, you've got your hand up.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The community has several concerns, a lot of which Gloria has touched on, and we do agree with. And a lot of this is in relation to the land use and density, as well as the site design and the layout. But Lomax does have a very rich history of a church over 150 years being in the community, and a cemetery that my grandmother is also buried in, along with a lot of other relatives. So there's a very rich history on the cemetery side. But when we look at the new project and the facility, it is not reflecting, as it was said, any other community history, including the name of what's been chosen for the facility. There's a lot of concern here that, you know, the history of the community is not even a thought or a consideration, but hopefully that will all change. It could be some things named after community historical matters or people, and we could discuss that further. Also, the facility, even though there has not been any official engineering studies, I agree that there needs to be something to ensure that the cemetery will not be damaged. And if the wall is going to be something that's covered up, I think we need to see a rendering of what's being put there and how this road that's going to be raised is going to look before any final decisions are made. In terms of some other areas, the green space where the buffer is also is a potential area that could reflect some of the community history. Now, in terms of issues that the community has, the egress into the project or the property. There's only one way in and one way out, and that's a very dangerous situation for more than 500 people that will reside in these units. There's been a lot of concern that there was no the potential connected road that was to come out on Shirlington Road has not been put into this plan, and that might help with some of the relief of the traffic. I don't think there's been adequate consideration given to what's coming to this area and how safe the roadway is, even off of Shirlington Road and 24th, with the increase in traffic. We have a child care center coming on Shirlington Road that's projected to bring 258 kids that are mostly going to come from people traveling the 95 corridor. We also have the art facility, which is scheduled to open December the 10th with all the art buses and the increased traffic that's going to be in that area. So I think it's essential that we revisit and come up with some more permanent commitment to putting in another ingress or egress at this project. Other areas is we've talked about the traffic study. I know there was one done in the past, but I think there needs to be some additional studies done with the impact today, as well as with these new projects that I just mentioned. I don't agree that it should be a private road versus a public road. I think we need to do what we have to in order to make this connection something that can relieve the impact of traffic on 24th. We have closed off 2 Glebe Road exits, which is going to be a serious impact with the number of buses and students and all the other traffic that's even coming off of Glebe, which often makes use of that property. The other is the housing, the increase in the density. If we're going to do that, and what should be reflected is a large increase in the number of affordable units and any community benefits that also may reflect more of the history of the community. But this is a serious impact on the neighborhood and that surrounding area that needs to be considered closely.
Ms. Clark, thank you. Ken.
Just to respond, and hi, Portia, this is Kedrick Whitmore. In terms of the traffic, we know that's a concern and an issue, and that's something we've been studying and continue to study with the county. Because this SPRC is not one on transportation and traffic, we are planning to talk at greater length about that at SPRC 2. You did ask about the retaining wall, what that's going to look like. Here's a rendering, and I don't know, Portia, if you can see if you're on camera or on your computer, but this is essentially, I can see it. Okay. This is what the final condition is projected to look like. And now this makes some assumptions about where that road is going to go, right? Where that access road is. But assuming we can push it toward the building where it is here, we're going to have this about 20 to 30 foot green buffer against the church property. That is our goal. That's what we're proposing. Again, we're continuing to work with staff about some of the specifics of this roadway. And so that may shift, but this is ultimately what we would like this to look like. So you can see the retaining wall, and correct me if I'm wrong since I misstated it earlier, but isn't visible in this condition. It's filled up to a point. Tell me if I'm wrong here. Okay.
Is that supposed to be a continuation of the retaining?
And you can kind of see we're picking up that material
Okay.
with those walls.
I don't think that is, I thought, the reason I said is I thought that might be the.
No.
Okay, now I'm scared about saying anything.
So where is the retaining wall?
It's underground. and this
No, I
way-
understand,
But where on it,
along-
yeah.
Right where the cursor is.
There's a slide, I think, that
So it's
shows,
sort of where that little sitting wall is. The new stone sitting wall.
Sean, don't we have one that shows a red?
Just guesstimating, so it's roughly there.
Like a
Where the
different
arrow
slide?
right there where the cursor is.
So, yeah, I recognize it's kind of hard, there we go, that's where it is. It's kind of hard to visualize what this is going to look like in the final condition, given what's there today, because we're making up for so much grade change in between the roadway and the retaining wall.
And what's there now is the cemetery. That's what we're looking at.
Cemetery is to the right, yes. And obviously, we're not disturbing any of that.
Right.
All the changes are to the left, or in this case, east side of that.
Okay, I want to go to Ezra Moore online with your question. Mr. Moore, are you still there? Can you unmute? All right, we'll come back to Mr. Moore at some point. Yes.
Can we pull up an image of the overall site plan with all of the roads
Existing or proposed?
proposed? The road that is currently under garage entry level 1 between building E and building D, where does that go to? And what's the
Thank you for asking. I failed to mention that in my presentation. So one of the other interesting, I'm just gonna stand up and show you guys. One of the other interesting elements of this site, adjacent to this property, you can kind of see it here, there's a cell phone tower. We don't own any of this out here, but there is the cell phone tower, and there is an easement that allows somebody to have access to that cell phone tower for service, the few times a year that you have to deal with it. So we have to maintain that access. So we decided to integrate that into the other entrances, just kind of take a road that could end here and just say, we're going to extend it another however many feet out to here. There'll be a gate. It's going to be controlled access to get to the cell tower.
Okay. And have you all solidified what load in and load out looks like for building E and where that will be for moving, for?
You might speak into it. Or
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sean's highlighting it here to the south side of the,
Okay.
planned south side of building A.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so any like trash, any moving,
Yep.
that's gonna come out from there?
Yep.
Okay,
All the retailers are there, electrical equipment, loading dock, trash, recycling is all on that southern side.
So all of that occurs internally.
okay, and then the second point that I want to make is just to voice the concerns of the number of units. So the Shelton, which is not directly next to any of this, but a one street over, only has 94 properties. The Allister, which is to the north, has 227, and the Bell has 217. So we'll be essentially adding double of one of those buildings and taking that, three building proposed grouping and doubling the size that currently exists. And I think there's a lot of real concern there, given that 24th Road is only a 2-lane road and currently doesn't see that much traffic today. I know that that's not our topic of conversation right now, but that is going to come into place as you talk through the site design and layout. And I do think that it would be the county to start to think now about making that a public road rather than a private.
Say that.
You mean the driveway?
Sounds good.
SPRC. Ezra Moore has been able to, can unmute himself.
Yes.
Oh,
I
good.
am. Thank you. My name is again is Ezra Moore. I'm from JL&M Home Developers. We're the developer of the town. So towns of 24th down to the corner of Shirlington Road and 24th Road. I'm kind of piggybacking off what Portia Clark stated. 24th Road is a very two-lane road, and it's heavily traffic on that road at different parts during the day currently. I don't want anybody to misunderstand how much the traffic is on that road now. A second entrance is almost a must for this to work because of the impact of all those cars coming into 20 on the community. No traffic light right down. It's not big enough to put a traffic light there, I don't think, to stop the traffic coming from Shirlington Road going on to 24th Road. That's one of the major arteries coming into the community. It's going to be a traffic nightmare. I'm not talking for towns of 24, but I guarantee the homeowners there would not be happy if they knew this was coming along our plans. So I would like you all to really give some consideration about some kind of secondary entrance, if that means altering the design a little bit. Currently, you have an entrance on Glebe Road, and you have an entrance on 24th Road. With the current setup, I can't see eliminating one of those entrances and being able to handle all that traffic. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Commissioner Strang.
Yes, so I got a couple questions based on some feedback there. So number one, the affordable housing question, consideration minimum. But, are these all going to be market rate? Are there going to be any ownership opportunities if we just talking straight rent for the different properties?
So the plan currently is for them to be all rentals. There will be an on-site affordable component. One of the things that we're really excited about.
You said it would be on-site?
Yes, there will be on-site.
You have like an estimate of how many?
We don't know how many yet. We're still talking with the county about that.
Okay.
But there will be. We're still finalizing this. We are very excited about the opportunity to provide larger units, both in terms of those townhome style units and some 3-bedroom rental, because there's not a lot of larger rental product. There sure isn't a lot of townhome rental product. And we are hoping to be able to incorporate some affordable elements into some of those larger.
Yeah. Mr. Peterson, she knows I love big units, so that's great. Now concerning the noise, I know that you're pushing the site back about 20 feet. Are there any other things that we can do on the noise? Because that is a cemetery. I know I was actually just at my own family cemetery, and I know the importance of that being a quiet, peaceful space. Yeah. And so is there anything else?
Yeah, no, it's a great concern, something that we've thought through as well. I mean, one of the things, we do have balconies along that edge there facing the church, but I mean, our management teams will monitor that as much as they can with the residents. One of the other things that just from a design perspective and a programming perspective is we didn't really get into too much of the layout of the rooftop amenities, which is where a lot of the activity would occur, faces inward. So we were very intentional in not having that face the church. So that is buffered with a structure, and a lot of that activity would face towards our interior courtyard as well, because that was one of the things that we were very sensitive to. We do, yeah, go ahead.
And then, okay, so it would be on that west side of the building, but it would be facing.
It would be facing north.
All right.
Facing north.
This view faces north, but the amenity faces east.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
And do you have a number that they could call?
Yeah, I mean, we yes,
yes.
Ceremony coming today. Our management staff will
keep it down for just a couple
of course. We will definitely make good connections with not only the church but the rest of the community as well.
Okay. Management takes a really good idea though, to make sure that there's a direct contact opportunity that's mandated. Not only if there's a problem, but just to say something big is happening, or there's an internment or something that needs to be taken care of.
And I can't reiterate enough. I mean, that was something we were absolutely from day one. We're very sensitive to. So throughout operations will be something we'll continue to monitor.
That.
Would you consider a higher wall that's more conducive to holding the noise down? Higher wall, because what you have there seems so, it's not very high, and someone can just
Yeah.
jump over it and go on into the
Now,
cemetery.
is that the, are you saying a wall between our?
A
property?
wall, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can work and consider.
I think that's something that we did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I don't know, and that we probably ought to get some information on is what it's what's the impact of the green screening on noise and on sound? And what's the trade-off between that and like a wall? A wall may be marginally better in terms of sound, but not as good in terms of aesthetics. I just don't know. That's something.
Somebody wants to speak to that issue.
Yes, you answered my question before I asked it. So I'm on the Forestry Commission, and I've been quiet purposely because that's coming next time. I do want to say 2 words too, just to make sure that you think about this before next time, which is green roof.
Sure.
I'd love to see some green roof elements in what you have up there. And also in the courtyard, I'm very pleased with that. When I look at the plan, I'm actually kind of encouraged. Right now, it's kind of a dump. The site's kind of a dump right now. And I think this has a lot of green space around the perimeter. And I think that's going to add to the neighborhood look and feel and be beneficial to Green Valley. But I guess a question I wanted to ask was in that nice picture you had of the green space along the perimeter there, the trees are all kind of short. As a Forestry Commission member who is scared to death about our loss of tree canopy, I would love to see you have big trees there. And I'd like for you to address maybe in a little bit more detail how that could be used as a buffer. I think that could be possibly a tremendous buffer between the cemetery and the church and all the people, however many, living on the other side.
Can I just poke in there with the combination of a wall and more dirt and higher trees, even higher, so having both there, I think would be significantly beneficial.
I mean, there's a concept, and I never get the name right. It's a Asian concept of like mini forest, Kawasaki, something like that, where you could have a mini forest here with your walking trail, with historical markers referring to the neighborhood and the church. And it could be a nice green buffer that looks much bigger than that. And you wouldn't even be able to see a lot of the building if you're standing on the church property. And so I would urge you to think about how you could really take advantage of this. And one thing I'm concerned about, I totally get the idea that one entryway is really tough with that many units. And I'd really not like to see the connection in an ideal world for green, because you're taking out more green space if you're connecting the road and back. But whenever you're putting in new entrances on glebe or whatever, you're taking out these trees along the buffer. And I'm hesitant because we need as many shade trees as we can get in South Arlington. South Arlington is disproportionately impacted by heat islands and bad air, and you need more shade trees down there. So this is a great opportunity actually to add to that inventory. And I want to maintain as much as you possibly can, even if you explore other entrances to the property.
We love that idea, and we'll continue exploring that. Sorry, go.
No, I mean, that's something we took into consideration in the redesign and pulling everything to one consolidated. It's even an 8-foot minimum landscape strip on 24th and Glebe. It expands to 15 feet in certain areas. So again, going back to the 4-mile run and the goals, it was the pedestrian connectivity and highlighted forested streetscape space.
Let's not. I don't live in South Arlington. I did once, down along Walter Reed, but let's not lose sight of the fact of the benefit of having green space, more green space down there in Green Valley, because let's reflect the name of the place. I think we need more open space and greenery down there for a better environment, better living conditions.
Six, Pastor Nelson.
So I don't know. We have one representative, Mr. Little, who's doing a wonderful job. I don't know if I can ask a question, however. Okay. So from the perspective of the developers, I think one of the things that she's already said is that the church is petrified that we're going to be by this project, size, scope of this project. Are you able to say, I know you guys are in this for profit. This is philanthropy. What's the smallest number of units that would make this development profitable for you? Because when I hear the statistics that the lady here shared about the number of units in competing complexes. This puts all of those together in one smaller spot. So I know that you have to make a profit, but how much of this is excess above what is really necessary? So I don't know if you can answer that question, but that's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, I can attempt to answer that question, and that is to say that, I mean, we've looked at the site a lot of different ways, certainly. I will say there's not much excess. I wouldn't call it excess, but I think collectively as an ownership group, we see this as right size right now. We totally understand the concern of density and number of units, both from a traffic impact and height, of course. But it's tough to say what the minimum number is, but I mean it's a function of a lot of different variables. But I think it's safe to say I think we see it as adequately sized right now.
Can you walk me through where in the site plan you guys have accounted for bicycle access, storage, getting in and out?
Pulling it up, but it's all at the intersection, the 24th, right there.
It's in grade, right?
It's that grade, right?
Yeah, it's on level 1. We'll have an outdoor, a door directly to Glebe Road, also be accessible from the inside of the building. So people come right down from the elevator, go right to the bike, and then take it out to the trails beyond.
One more question over here.
Yeah, first a comment and then a question. Putting like logistics, cultural significance aside, from the climate change perspective, density is key, increased density. We're building structures for tomorrow. These are 30-year plus standing structures. And so density is key. Increased density is better. It's more efficient with utilities, within infrastructure. It's more efficient for the county. So it's fully supported fully on the climate change side of that. With a question with the design layout, kind of what was the purpose of the cul-de-sac or roundabout built in, then the extension of the private access drive past the townhomes, and how do you prioritize that over green space?
So it has to do with fire access requirements. So essentially, the drive is too long and you need to turn around for life safety reasons. That's why that's proposed. And then the cul-de-sac really is, it's a multitude of things. It creates an awkward turn without it, turnaround for residents with or without. So we didn't want people for the building E to have to go all the way to the T-turn to turn around and then come back around. It also helps activate the lobby, secondary lobby there. So it was all done purposefully to that effect. And then it would help for any future connections.
So is that like a patch of green space in the middle of the roundabout cul-de-sac, or is it just going to be fully paved?
It'll likely be green. Yeah, we won't be able to put any sort of tree, just do the sidelines, but.
Sure. Hey. Yes.
I'm not sure if this is the right time to bring it up, but from a park and rec perspective, you're adding 500 new people. Are you adding anything in terms of, physical activity, amenities? I know you have the pool. Is this the right time to talk about this?
Not really, but we save a little bit of time by skipping the first subject matter and address the question quickly.
Well, anyway, I'll just say that that's going to be something on our radar screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course. I mean, that's a great question. And we're still trying to figure out our programming, but certainly that'll be a focus of our amenity offering.
And we're hopeful that this green space is going to have a walking path that folks can use to move up and down as well.
We're going to talk about sidewalks and ADA and everything else at a separate time.
Okay, thank you. Generally in the Housing Commission, we're supporting more dense projects, more height. There was just a site plan that came through and we said, oh, we wish you went taller, then you ended up going. And I think it'd be great to have this many new units here. Part of my concern, again, echoing first question and comment, especially hearing from Porta, Green Valley, is that this sounds like something that the neighborhood is sort of bracing for as opposed to excited about. It doesn't you know, incorporating some stone elements or some colors, to me, doesn't bridge the gap between like, oh, this is now part of the community. It seems more like this is trying to mitigate negative impacts on the church or the neighborhood, as opposed to how do we make this part of the community and have them be excited about what's being built and about the people who are going to be joining their neighborhood. So in general, like a lot of language I'm hearing seems much more like, here's what we're doing again to mitigate, as opposed to like, we've been working with Green Valley and they're very excited about this aspect of the project and what we're going to be doing here. So it'd be great if that dynamic changed a bit. You talked about someone else had talked about the size of the units. If it's possible to do more 3-bedrooms, that is such a huge need in the county. Appreciate that you have them at all in here. Would love to see more 2-3-bedroom, especially I know you talked about affordable units being some of the potentially townhomes and the larger family size units. We're just so desperately in need of those in the county. So I think that would be fantastic if there's a way to make that work. So I wanted to put that plug in there as well.
Seven, right? 9
apartments. 9 apartments.
37, so 9 3-bedroom apartments.
And then flat style, and then we have the 37 town.
On average, the unit size is closer to 850 square feet. We also have 2-story, 2-bedrooms for all unit types, encompassing the studios and 1-bedrooms as well. We have 2-story, 1 and dens, 2-story, 2-bedrooms, so we have a lot of variety. We're just working with you.
Mr. Lintown.
Yeah, a couple of things. Okay, height. Good little talk about that too much. The 95 feet, that's the maximum height. Just remember that this is obviously your building is planned with the land under it is, and so is that 95 feet the maximum at the lowest part of the property for the multifamily buildings?
I think we measure from average grade, right?
Average grade.
So I would have to see what that is from the low. I understand the question,
Yeah,
right?
just looking at the renderings, it looks like when you look at one direction, 9 stories. When you look on 24th, it's 7.
Mm-hmm.
Can
we maybe go through the elevations?
Yeah, and technically, actually, shorter if you think about it, because that amenities all the way on the top.
Right, yeah, so, yeah, even not that, right, because that's, no one will see that because it's in the center. Right, so the greatest visual height still is that far one corner by 395.
Right, I think.
And the low visually is along 24. Because
visually, the tallest portion would be on.
Shortest portion.
Shortest portion.
Is like, even 24th around there.
Right by the church.
We don't have shortest.
By the church, that's the shortest visually.
Correct.
I want to get that clear.
Yeah.
How many rooms are on the existing hotel?
I don't have it.
Was it 264 maybe? I think something.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact number.
So there's presumably a lot of traffic already going in and out of there right now, especially given it's a hotel. It's all during the day. It's not just in the evenings and the mornings. It's like always. So you're already getting a lot of traffic through there right now.
That's correct. And I think, Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or I think we'll be prepared to talk about that in SPRC too, but that is accounted for in.
Yeah, I want to make sure we get that information and prepared for that discussion at the next SPRC with that information.
Yeah, and that changes.
Yeah, that'll be really important. And touching a little bit on the open space, this is rental. There will be dogs allowed in this building?
Yes.
Okay, do you have space for dog runs or so they don't have to go into the neighborhood? They can stay on site? And I think that's really important with the cemetery next door.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is where your dogs go, period.
Yeah. No, that's a good point to make sure that's, sorry.
No. Yeah, we've thought about that several different ways. So yeah, we'll consider that moving forward. Absolutely. That's paramount that we're not.
Right.
Especially going anywhere else beyond our property.
That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Jim, it's 260. 260.
260.
In the quality?
So it's a pretty big.
Yeah.
Does that
See that? Yeah, because it's
More questions?
Hold on just a second, if you don't mind. Chairman Sarli.
Oh, I was just gonna associate myself with Commissioner Macbeth's comments or sentiment. Insofar as I think, it's not an either or situation. You don't have to slavishly copy the designs of the church, but I think, it is a little contextually aloof. It's not quite tying into the neighborhood as much as I think it could. And I'm not suggesting that we start putting like pointed arches and stained glass windows everywhere, right? Like we're not suggesting that at all. But I think you can do something that starts to have a better sentiment. And I think to sort of give you a little bit of a positive feedback, I think the building facing the church is one of the more successful facades on the project because it's being a little bit toned down. It's not trying to set up that frame and it's a little less preoccupied with being exciting. And I think it's actually being a little bit more successful right there because it's sort of like I'm happy to be a humble building and kind of almost deferring to the church architecturally and letting the church have all the flares and the arches and all the details. And by sort of having that simpler facade, it's just a grid, it's just brick, it's got a base and it's got a top. It's very fundamental. It's good and it simplifies it. And I think it ends up being the more successful side of the building. The other point that I brought up on previous comments is on the townhouses and that proximity to the fence on the mutton chop leg or whatever term we're using. I'm still not sure how that space is going to be used, if at all. I just, on a daily routine, the person comes in, they pull into the garage. Like, I just don't see that front door ever being used. And I think we use the term trick or treating. Like, would the kids actually go down that sidewalk to go trick or treating? Or are they going to be nervous because it's a little dark? It's got a chain link fence, or So I think a little bit of design, a little bit of space, a little bit of intent could be used on that particular intersection. I think that's all I have architecturally speaking, and site plan.
Ms. Little?
Well, I don't know if this is the time to bring it up, but some of the members have some other concerns. And some of them are during construction. And I don't know if this is the time to talk about that.
Well, we still have one topic to get to, which is building height, form, and architecture. Okay. Then there'll be another.
I'll hold this, and then if not, I'll give you the paper. You can read it. Okay.
If nobody has any comments on building height, form, and architecture, we'll let you have your say.
Okay.
But Commissioner Lantelmi got us into that discussion, talking about height. Are there others that want to raise related issues?
I do have a clear question. How many balconies are going to be facing the cemetery?
Well, Sean, you may know that now, but I believe we have 4 stacks. Yeah, so I don't.
Okay.
But we can certainly.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really useful for consideration of noise.
Yeah, and I should say that the balconies that we currently have are Juliet. Sean.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
So the narrow little thing.
They're all
Yeah.
Juliet,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
are there
Sorry,
any?
I missed.
Oh, okay.
We've got 3 stacks of real balconies, and we do, where we set back the building, that is private terraces for those units up at level 7.
If we could have the numbers of those balconies, I think that'd be really helpful. Okay, so I see the Juliets, and then the darker, those are the setback balconies. Okay, and then above that, at that row, those are all of the terraces. Okay. 15 Juliets, 18. Yeah, I'm less concerned about the Juliets, more concerned about the terraces and setback balconies.
So would the Juliets be on the side of the cemetery and church? Are those Juliets?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
the perspective from.
So that makes a bit of a difference.
Well, it's not just Juliets. So the
Yeah.
Juliets are where the cursor is, and then next to the Juliets, if you see the black line, the 3 black lines, those are setback balconies.
Okay.
And then at the top, there's a second level. Yeah.
Have you guys done studies about how noise carries? I know we have all these noise things with the pickleball courts.
Oh,
It won't be
yes.
like a pickleball court.
You did propose
Well-
to put pickleball on roofs to get rid of the noise, so I'm not sure, like, how does noise convey?
Yeah, I think that's something we should come back with some more, and that's really good feedback from everybody on the noise and what the impacts are and what the impacts of the buffering are. And I think as we talked about before, what does a wall do versus the trees versus certain types of plantings? There are a lot of elements to it, but it's great feedback.
Yeah, there are certain plants that will provide noise buffer.
Yes.
So fighting for every foot of green space, it's always gonna be trade-offs. If you bring the height down, I'm worried that I'm gonna lose all the green space that we've got there. So one question I have is it possible, right now, the main building is kind of uniform in its height. Is it possible to have it be lower on the western side and higher on the Glebe Road side, maybe 10 or 11 stories on the Glebe Road side, but only 4 stories, sort of like the townhouses on the western side? That would reduce the impact overlooking the church and wouldn't require you to expand your footprint.
Yeah, one of the things we did initially, the plan does talk about there being a transitional height zone where you have lower heights. We just said, we're gonna have 0. Instead of 45 feet, it's got 45 feet closer to the church. We just said, we're gonna completely set it back. So rather than having like a step up from closer to the church, we just said, nope, we're gonna cut it completely. And then there is a lower height on that facade that is closest to the church. We step back on there. So that was our intent when
I see that and appreciate that. I'm just kind of wondering, could you do even more? Because you're still hearing concerns about the height on the western side.
we can take a look at it.
Okay, building height, form, and architecture. Other questions or comments?
Just one, have you considered doing anything with green walls? Anything to, I don't know what that might do to the noise, but it would certainly increase the green space significantly if you could do green walls. But if you do that, make sure you've got a maintenance plan it'll stay green and not be all brown and dead. Yeah.
Green walls are only good when they stick. Right.
To Commissioner Klinghoffer's comment, this is not the 5/2, right? Not doing wood framing.
We're 5/3.
Okay, so you are doing wood framing. Okay, so that height is a little problematic.
You would need to switch construction types, that's correct.
Do you guys have any images on shadow studies as it relates to the interior courtyard? Will the units inside the interior courtyard ever get it?
It shows.
I think they showed, yeah.
Shadow study.
I think I was more so looking for the church impact and the courtyard.
It was very, sometimes it was overshadowed, other times it's not overshadowed.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. So it looks like for the most part, it's gonna sit, units there are gonna sit typically heavily in shadow.
We are very aware that it's an 8-story courtyard. And what that means and what that means to planting down there as well. And it's part of the reason we do have the rooftop amenity as well. So there are different offerings as part of it.
So the courtyard paved, or will it have any green space?
Oh,
a lot of green.
Mostly green.
Yeah.
Did meant to evoke the Pentagon. Is that why? That's all I see. And I didn't know if that was intentional.
Only in function of site lands, boundaries coming through.
Okay.
Work job.
Oh, yeah, work job.
Did you go through and tell
Yeah.
is that okay?
It's next time.
Next time? Okay.
Yeah, I will ask the sheriff and we can talk about landscaping.
We've got some time.
Sure,
so
we have time, yes.
I mean, there's some things there.
Sure, and I don't know if Sean, I don't know what level we've designed to, but we can talk to each of those. I'm sorry, are you asking what the interior spaces are gonna be like? Okay.
Yeah,
you're saying interior space of the courtyard.
Of the courtyard.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a lot of green space, right? Because we were in, as we mentioned before, we moved that pool up to the top of the deck there that kind of helps open up that. So Sean, can you zoom in a little bit? Yeah. So a lot of green space in there. I don't think that this image is doing that justice. We have seating groups in there, a lot of wood decking as well to be a little bit more organic and take away from just hard cementitious pavers, things like that. But several different seating groups, a couple fireplace elements as well, a lot of communal seating as well. So really leaning into the idea of bringing people into that space sort of as a retreat. More than anything as well. I mean, a lot of that energy is up by the pool, as you might imagine. So this space, this interior courtyard, we kind of see as just a total reprieve and retreat for folks. So and we'll be excited to share more detail to that coming up as well.
And what's the green rectangle next to the pool?
I'm sorry. Oh, that is additional outdoor area as well. It's kind of like lounging space, a little bit of activity there as well.
Is there a dog park or a dog?
Currently, no, there's no dog park.
It's a pickleball court.
It's a
Oh, that's healthy.
Other questions on Lake Coleman Architecture? Yes.
Yeah, so we've kind of talked extensively about the noise impacts of the building on neighbors nearby. And we were just talking about the roof and all of that. Has there been consideration of the impact of 395 on these residents and just getting to sit on the rooftop and enjoy the DMV's famous traffic jams? Like, have you thought about that process?
Yeah, and well, one of the things that I think we'll be very sensitive to is STCs, FTC ratings along those windows facing the 395 side as well. We haven't formed those studies just yet, but that is definitely going to be something that we want to pay attention to.
SCC?
FTC,
Sound transmission class.
Yeah. How much
piece of material, how loud is sound on one side versus how loud it is on the other side?
Other questions?
Just have an off-the-wall question. Okay, I'm just curious, is in terms of kind of marketing studies you guys have done, as I know that the apartment buildings, the condos that are across the street on Glebe, I know at least at one point there has been very little occupancy, and so I was just kind of curious, in terms as far as what your anticipation is.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a great question. No, we've had several different marketing studies and surveys throughout the past couple of years here. So no, it's a good question, a good concern, but no, we feel very comfortable with the market today. And
you're going to have a better, market response than across the street. Okay.
We hope so. We hope so.
It's just piggybacking on that. Do you know what the target audience would be for that? One
Yeah.
of the things I'm concerned about is feels like I think that part of that comes rentals, and that if there's any ownership, for example, doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence that it's a project that is of the community and responds to the needs of the community, right? So I'm just curious, like, what's the marketing, what's the long-term plan there to making sure that when we do have residents that can be part of, sure that our first responders, our teachers, our folks who actually live in Green Valley can live in that building as well and stay for a long time, so we're not seeing this consistent turnover.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question and great concern as well. I mean, that's kind of part and parcel to those marketing studies that we do as well. Not only do we do surveys of the existing product that is out there, but who is that demographic going to be and who can we capture with our amenity offerings and how we lay out our units and what kind of sizing we're offering there as well. So no, I mean, it's a great point and something that we're sensitive to. So we don't want to be just that spaceship that comes into a community and doesn't interact with everything else. So
for free from it, I would agree.
Yeah.
Just a comment on that. Have been really impressed over the past year of the Crystal House development. They've added buildings that are townhouses to make homeownership more accessible and would just encourage that. I know it's been really welcomed in the Crystal City community, and I imagine access to more homeowner opportunities, even if it is splitting away a little bit, would be welcomed.
And one of the good things, when we do an entitlement, an approval for multifamily buildings, it doesn't specify whether it's rental or for sale units. So we do, I don't want anybody to think we're stuck like in one path. You still can have flexibility if it gets to that point. So helpful comments.
Yeah, definitely encourage looking into that if you haven't yet. Really, really great example of, I think, how the community has come together to work with the development.
Am I hearing that you plan to start off renting and then decide to curtail the affordability side of rentals and then move towards home ownership?
No, my only point was that we don't have to decide right now whether it's a for sale or for rent product. That when even when the entitlement is complete, it allows for you to take either path. The intent is to be.
The intent. For how long? That's another question that's a concern.
Forever.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Stormwater management is really big in Arlington right now. So would our property be impacted? And if so, who would bear the costs of that?
One of the good things about a redevelopment is that we're taking a space that's right now not subject to the current stormwater standards and that has a ton of impervious and runoff spaces, and replacing it with something that's got more green impervious spaces and up-to-date stormwater management in terms of retention and treatment. So that's kind of number one, is that the county's going to require, and the state will require all those to be put in place. There are agreements in whatever site plan conditions the county imposes upon the approval, where we agree to meet certain metrics related to those. And then if there ends up being a problem, the county can come in and force.
We know that.
Right. So
it's happening in my neighborhood. So
okay. Well, I'm sorry that you're dealing with that there, but we think it'll improve the situation dramatically.
So is there a reserve fund in the event of damage to the church property and or building, or will there be? That's a concern of some of the members' congregation.
Yeah, it'll certainly be in the GL.
Pardon me?
It's a GL policy, general liability policy, so it'll be captured in our.
So building off the construction materials discussion we've been having, how are you addressing or even thought about addressing embodied carbon? Have you thought about recycling on-site materials from the existing infrastructure? I know that can decrease cost by up to 50% for building new structures. I know that structures are quite different, but still, have you started considering any of those techniques to address embodied carbon?
No, right now, I don't think that. I don't think we have explored that just yet, but that's definitely something that I think you can consider if it's viable.
I guess I will just jump in. All projects that we do for Crescent Communities, we do carbon modeling on all those jobs to track it as part of the portfolio.
I work in greenhouse gas emissions, so I now have a lot of questions about your carbon modeling, but save that.
We talked about unit size and affordability a bit. In terms of accessibility, are you guys just planning to do the minimum required? Are you planning to go any further than what's required by law?
Currently, the minimum.
Just the minimum. Okay. Certainly encourage you to look going beyond the minimum requirements. It's something, especially our disability commission, which I don't think is here. Always brings up to the housing commission when you have projects come through, and especially if there's units that we think more elderly populations are going to be inhabiting, just having those spaces be accessible. And a lot of the accessibility features are helpful for everyone, whether they're disabled or not. So
I can speak to that too. from a former a member of the Commission on Aging. I mean, this is very much, part, of Arlington County, and age-friendly Arlington is to ensure that residents of all ages, can go and pay money to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to see if we have folks on the line for public comment. Is there anyone seeking public comment this evening?
We have two speakers signed up. So first is Byrne.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Bernie, go ahead.
Okay. This building has a footprint that's too large, and it should be taller and just narrower. So you have green space more green space on the outside. You have a little, but not much. Building E has a nice courtyard, but it's not visible to the public. It's really nice to have a building that has more green space visible to the public. The roof has no solar panels. It doesn't have any. Green roof. It should have this. You can propose solar panels there and have shade tolerant plants right next to them. But that's a big defect on this. Should have green walls, as somebody mentioned already, with native vines climbing on trellises and hanging from the roof. Now they did provide a short plant list that showed only 6 plants. I'm sure there will be more. But of those 6 plants, common milkweed is on there. That's good. But you have catmint there, which is not native to the U.S. That's Nepeta racemosa. That's not native to the U.S. You can't have these kind of things because otherwise they don't help pollinators and they can become invasive. Purple coneflower, Echinacea purpura, is not native to Maryland, D.C., or Virginia. It's native further south. So again, those 2 plants should be eliminated, catmint and purple coneflower. I hope that when this comes to the Planning Commission, it has a more extensive plant list. I'm sure there are going to be more than just those 6. So basically, don't make sure these plants you do have are native to this area, and take out catmint and purple coneflower. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Bernie.
And then next up we have Tina.
Good evening.
Good
evening. Is Mr. Byrne finished speaking?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very excited about this project, and I have a comment that may sound more like a question. It appears that there is no way, if you're heading northbound on South Glebe Road, that there is no way to make a left turn into the property as you can with the hotel site, that the only left turn is at South 24th Street. And if that's the case, I would encourage to not have the ability to make a left turn before the traffic light, because what's happening now is if you are heading northbound on South Glebe Road and you're intending to make a turn onto 24th Street, often you're cut off by a car that suddenly decides to make a U-turn or a left turn into the hotel site. So I hope that there is if that is the case, it looked like from slide 26, approximately where the bike entrance is located. That's where the current entrance is, which is also before the ramp before 395 South. I just hope that there's no way to turn and left to the property just because of the conflict with the cars merging from 395 onto South Glebe northbound, as well as the cars making the left turns onto 24th Street. So that's a comment / question. And I can raise it at SPRC too, if that's more appropriate.
Thank you, Tina. That does conclude public comment. I don't know if the applicant wanted to respond now or kind of wait till SPRC number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can respond now. I mean, I think if I understand the question correctly, we will not have that left turn in there, but you guys can correct me.
Yeah, it was thoughtfully thought through not to have that left turn. It's an existing illegal left turn that happens at the current site.
Anybody here in the room that has further comments?
For pedestrians crossing Glebe Road, is that more for the next SPRC or is that? Okay, then. No question.
Quick comment. We had a comment about the environmental impact. If you guys can bring in information, that will be up at our next SPRC. That'll be bring that information.
For the next PRC, is it possible to maybe draw in the proposed road that we would hope would connect on to South Shirlington Road?
Yeah, we can show.
The question about that is, I know you have to get an easement to build that road. Is there a timeline that you don't know when that permission is, or is it granted, or that would be helpful to know, or just think about that situation for the next one.
So it is currently under private ownership, that other side closer to Shirlington Road. So there are no plans for redevelopment filed, but whenever they do come, that would definitely be a consideration.
Whenever they do come,
So
is that, so the owner currently would have to bring forward those plans of their own, correct?
The warehouse is.
Yeah.
But it's all trade-off, because put that road through and I recognize the community's interests in that, and you're losing green space. You're losing trees and green space, so I think that would be, I think there's pros and cons. Connection.
You are opening up the opportunity.
So given that statement, that means that road is from south end of the property, making its way to South Shirlington Road. Is that a the one thing?
It's recommended for that future connection to go all the way. It's just a matter of working with the property owners. In this case, we have the one half, there's the other half.
What plans are there to work with the property owners? Are there any right now?
Currently, they haven't filed any redevelopment plans. We would have to coordinate.
In my opinion, that is vital to the success of this project. I mean, still looking down road and just obviously going to help county with their goals of income and population growth, which is exploding. But without that, it's going to be tough. And the infrastructure that we have now on South Shirlington Road, 24th Road, I can't see how it supports it. I'm a resident of 28 years. I've seen it grow. The flow is just continues.
30 times a day when 24th is gridlocked.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I know.
Yeah.
Right, and that's at
And I-
current density, right?
it'll be exciting SPRC too.
All right, thank you all very much. So we'll let you know when the SPRC's second meeting
So to come down.
is scheduled, and we look forward to seeing you all there.
Possibly next
Appreciate it.
year.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's away
The
from.
town.
Thanks, President. See you again. Appreciate your comment.
But yeah,
But
but it's still better than